Good afternoon. I'm Mike Jossett. I'm interviewing a veteran of Vietnam, Ed Gardner, who served with the United States Army um, in the Engineer Corps. Welcome, Ed.
Thank you. Good to be.
Can you tell us, Ed, when did you serve in the Army?
From January of 1970 until late October of 71.
And what did you do?
I was a lieutenant in the Engineer Corps.
In the Engineer Corps?
Uh-huh.
Can you tell us a little bit about where you served and what you did?
I got my commission through ROTC at IU.
Uh-huh.
And I went on active duty in January of 70, reported to Fort Belvoir for the Engineer Officer Basic Course.
Mm-hmm.
It's EOBC,
Mm-hmm.
class of 70. And there were 200 of us from all over the nation. And everything just sort of developed from there. The class graduated late spring. I was assigned to the 91st Engineer Battalion, 902nd Float Bridge Company, and was with them until late summer, about September sometime. And I came down on orders for Vietnam. I came home to Connorsville, married my wife, a girl I had taken to my high school prom at CHS in '65. Married her. 10 days later, I was on the plane to Southeast Asia. And that's how I got there.
How old were you at that time?
23.
23?
23.
Married at 23.
Married at 23.
Where did you go in Vietnam?
Place called Vinh Long.
Vinh Long?
Vinh Long.
Vinh Long.
Vinh Long City. It's the provincial capital of the province of Vinh Long. It's right down in the Mekong Delta. Is the historical birthplace of the Viet Cong movement.
Mm-hmm.
And so we joked about it at the time that we were right down in Indian country. And it was a good year.
What did you do there?
The first 6 months, give or take, I had a vertical construction platoon. We built troop billets and bunkers, general carpentry work. And then an interesting thing happened. Let me take a sidebar here for just a minute.
Uh-huh.
A Captain Nesbitt from Georgia at the Airfield Commander's Office rotated home. And it became the engineer's turn to supply an assistant airfield commander. And the next thing I knew, I was getting detailed to the airfield commander's office, which didn't turn out to be a bad thing. The airfield commander wore a lot of hats. He was the airfield commander. He was the commanding officer of the 346th Aviation Detachment, Divisional Air Traffic Controllers.
Mm-hmm.
That put me in the executive officer's spot for the air traffic controller. And I had a job description that was some 18 or 19 line items long.
Now you were not trained in traffic control.
No, I was not trained in air traffic control, and I was not a pilot. The commanding officer was Lieutenant Colonel Bernard R. Lefebvre. That's Lefebvre. Lefebvre. It was the transportation corps type. He was a pilot and a veteran of the 114th Assault Helicopter Company on previous tour. And he was there that tour as the airfield commander.
How many were in your unit?
It was a small unit. It was maybe 20. And they were all bright young men, college educated for the most part. The colonel himself had a master's degree. He was fluent in French as well as English. And he was quite a guy. He was the kind of officer that every man that ever joins the service hopes to have one of sometime during his career or enlistment.
A very personable kind of
Personal kind of guy, but at the same time he was hard-nosed, and you did things right, period, no discussion. And he said one day, "I may be a SOB, but I'm a fair SOB." And he was. He was the kind of guy that if the situation called for it, you would pick up your rifle and follow him to hell and back, if that's what it took.
That's a real strong commander.
And he wouldn't have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
You'd see the situation and you'd reach out and grab that weapon and saddle up, boys, we're going.
What was the name of the airfield?
Bin Long Army Airfield.
Bin Long Army Airfield.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Right next door to Vin Long City.
Mm-hmm. How long were you there in that assignment?
From, I think it was April 26th to October 17th. When I left, the NCOs, man of 346 gave me that little plaque.
That's all right, I got
It's
it.
got the First Aviation insignia on it there, and the 346 there.
Mm-hmm.
Plaque dedicating it to me, and they even put honorary aviator's wings on it for me.
Very good.
Oh, I was
That's a nice memento.
even though I was still Corps of Engineers, they made me an honorary aviator, and I really appreciated that.
That's
Like,
that's an honor.
to be accorded that honor by those guys, you betcha.
Mm-hmm. Were there any special projects that you were involved with there while you were assigned to the airfield?
There was one that got me a lot of notoriety. One of the line items in my job description was to serve as local coordinator and escort officer for all of the USO shows that came through. All of them. And I didn't get to meet Bob Hope, but I did get to meet Phyllis George, Miss America 1971. And she had with her 6 state misses and a traveling companion from the Miss America pageant.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a military escort with them, infantry captain type, that accompanied them with a 45, service 45, strapped to his hip.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was strictly copacetic. There was no fooling around.
That's a hard job, isn't it?
It wasn't a hard job. There just was a lot to it, logistically, to put it all together.
What was Phyllis George like?
What was she like?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she was a 5'2", I think, brunette from Denton, Texas. She was very laid back, down home kind of person. Although she, she just made you feel at ease. You were not uncomfortable around her. 20 minutes later, she could tell you what a guy's name was that she met 10 minutes earlier. And tell you something about him. So she was very quick mentally, I suppose you could say. And she was just a great all-around person.
Now, did you travel with them for the USO shows?
Did I travel with them?
Mm-hmm.
No, I was local coordinator.
Okay.
And that means anything local, I did. I was personally responsible for all of their transportation, air and ground, into and out of Van Long and during their stay. And
How long did they stay with you?
they were with us from about 2 in the afternoon on August the 30th until 9 o'clock the next morning. One of my other job duties caught up to me, that being pay officer for the 346th and the Vietnamese nationals around the airfield commander's office, which meant that I had to take a private with a rifle, strap a 45 on my hip, go to the finance office and get pay vouchers and cash for everybody else and count it, sign for it, at which time I became personally and pecuniary liable for the payroll.
Mm-hmm.
And I left to pay the troops. The colonel saw the girls off for me, and he was their last contact at Van Long.
Mm-hmm.
But I also took care of their quarters, their rations. The quarters one is an interesting part of the story. I was pacing the office floor one morning back and forth, and I had a problem. These girls traveled for the Pentagon under the auspices of the Department of State.
Mm-hmm.
They had traveled with a GS-18 rating, which is about the highest civilian pay grade in government. And it's the equivalent of an ambassador. So just any old place wouldn't do. And you knew that right from the top, right down the chain of command, all the way out to Vin Long, you know, all eyes were on me. Failure was not only not an option, it was not even part of the vocabulary.
Right.
So I'm facing the office floor and I asked the colonel, "Sir, where can we house these girls that will be safe, clean, secure, and appropriate?" And he just kind of smiled and he said, "You can probably put them in the VIP quarters. Let me talk to the other colonels for you. I'm sure I can get them to give up their beds one night for Miss America." Next morning I went into work, and first thing he said to me when I walked through the door, "Well, you got the VIP quarters for your Miss America show. I talked to the other colonels for you last night, and to a man they agreed to vacate their quarters for one night.
Sure.
You got the VIP quarters." And it's like a college dorm. It's air conditioned, which I'm sure they appreciated in Vietnam. They got to us, they were tired and beat to death. They'd done 23 shows in like 18 days. Their shows were 2.5 hours each. They were entirely beaten up tempo. It'd be like watching a 1950s rock concert. Sean now or some of those guys. And they didn't let it get them down. The sound came up, the lights came on, the smiles came on with it, and they all of them took the stage on the run.
The show was on.
And the show was on.
I see you had an award. You received an award for your service, and you brought that with you today. Would you tell us about that?
Well, it might be getting just a little bit ahead of where I want to be. I arranged for their meals, a venue, a time. I had to arrange to have some 440 wiring installed where I was going to set up their stage. That meant I had to go coordinate with the civilian contractor on the airfield, Pacific Architects and Engineers, and a lot of legwork. And I wanted to get them fed well, so I went to our mess sergeant, and there was a problem. Colonel Shallcross, of the commanding officer of the 701st Cav, was rotating home, and his officers were having a party for him. And make a long story short, we negotiated, and he asked me what time the show was, and we settled on a time that was just 1 hour of Colonel Shallcross's party. And when the mess sergeant had ordered the steaks for the party, he ordered 20 extras. And he said I could have those for these young ladies.
Oh, okay.
So I got Miss America a steak dinner. I got her air-conditioned quarters, and an air-conditioned dining room. And that afternoon, as I took them back to their quarters from the PX, as we rode along, I asked the captain if I brought a handbill by the VIP quarters, what would be the chance of getting some autographs? And he looked at his watch and he said, "Come back at 5. I think we should be able to do that." And I did. And they passed me out this autographed handbill. It's been one of my most prized possessions all these years.
Here, let me.
But you can bring the camera in on that. And these girls they were just gorgeous, yet in a nutshell. They autographed their pictures and wrote personal notes to me all over their signatures.
Outstanding for first-class accommodations.
You know, from Phyllis George at Miss America, that's her in the center. And this is Cheryl Brown, Miss Iowa. She was the first black to compete in the white Miss America contest. First one. And this is Belinda Merrick, Miss Texas. She moved up when Phyllis became Miss America. She moved up into Miss Texas spot. And this is Donna Conley, Miss Arkansas. Karen Joy Shields, Miss Arizona. Helen Young, known then as Helly Youngst, Miss New Jersey. And Vicki Jo Todd, Miss Nevada.
Some beautiful girls.
Some of the beautiful and most talented young women in America.
Without a doubt.
Their show was 2.5 hours long, and they danced and sang their hearts out for us. It was phenomenal. The guys appreciated it very much. How much? Well, the day after the show, the colonel went back to his quarters, and there was a delegation waiting on him of I think there were 4 young privates from the CAV. And he told the CQ, when the CQ told him that they were there, "Sure, send them back, I'll talk to them." And the guys came back, and they were there to offer $50 a piece for the sheets that those girls slept on. Now, you were in Vietnam. You remember what you were getting paid in those days?
No, I don't remember.
Not a whole lot more than $50.
Not much more. That's
They
true.
were there, and they were for real. They meant it. They were offering $50 a piece
For a souvenir.
for the sheets those girls
Yeah.
slept on.
Can you tell us about you were awarded the Bronze Star at one point?
I was.
Can you tell us about that?
That came as a joint award from the 346th Aviation Detachment and from the 36th Engineer Battalion. And it was for meritorious service. And it was for my handling of the Miss America USO show.
Outstanding. Let me, can I see? There we are.
You can get those for valor in combat, and you can get them for meritorious service,
For a job well done.
for a job well done.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You had another plaque.
Yeah, that one. What's this one? This is from the 36th Engineer Battalion. It's got the
Lieutenant Edwin W. Gardner. In appreciation for service with the 36th Engineer Battalion during the period November 70 to October 71.
pretty well sums it up. It's got the 36th unit crest here.
Yep.
And the crest of the Engineer Command. It was combined 20th and 18th Brigades. Right in the closing years of the war, they were winding down.
Mm-hmm.
They just combined the two units.
Working on Vietnamization of South Vietnam at that time. Well, Ed, is there anything else that you would like to share with us today?
Oh, I could share a lot of stories with you. I felt like I was just getting going good on the Miss America one.
Mm-hmm.
But you've heard enough to get the general idea. There were some tense moments. I was not involved in any combat, although a couple of times I was close enough that I thought I could hear it going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one night they put Cobra gunships in the air over our perimeter, and the guys sat on the hooch tops, and it was just like watching a 4th of July fireworks. They were in the air, strafing the ground with their Gatling guns, their 7.62 Gatling guns.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what the cyclic rate of fire was for those, but you didn't hear the individual shots.
Mm-hmm.
The plane flew over, craft flew over, and all you heard was
A burst.
whoop,
Right, a burst.
and they fired air-to-ground rockets. I mean, you could hear them up there flying around, and all of a sudden there'd be a bright red laser-looking streak appear in the night sky, air to ground.
Mm-hmm.
Just bing, that quick. And
Was that from a secondary explosion on the ground, or was that from flares?
that was from a secondary explosion on the ground
Okay.
when that rocket hit the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys watching on top of the hooches would just laugh and cheer and applaud. Go, man, go. Tear Charlie's up. And they'd fire some more ordnance, and they'd cheer some more. We had trouble with sappers on our perimeter at one point, and we laid night ambush atop our materials piles down by the river.
Mm-hmm.
Dug positions during the day, got dug in, moved up there after chow in the evening, divided the night up into 4-hour watches. Word must have got out because we didn't have any more trouble. But if we'd caught any coming through the wire at that point, they would have received a warm welcome.
Oh, you bet.
You betcha. That's about it.
Well,
That's close enough, I guess. We get in a place like that and those mortars start thumping and those bees start buzzing. It's not funny.
well, thank you, Ed Gardner. I appreciate you coming in, and thank you for sharing with us.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right.